Parkhurst Products Inc. The Trading Card History, Part 4. Welcome back, and thanks for the great feedback. We're glad you're all enjoying the series. In Part 4, we now know exactly what competition Parkhurst was up against through O-Pee-Chee. With that established, we'll carry on with the remaining issues that were released and then turn our attention to the Parkhurst production design patterns of the wrappers that helps guide us to the non-sport card dating. We left off with the 1957 Adventures of Radisson. From there, we move to the next 1957 release, Sports Cars, not to be confused with Indianapolis Speedway Winners or Old Time Cars, two other somewhat similar issues that would follow. This colorful smaller set of 42 sports cars represents the most prestigious speed vehicles from around the world, including countries such as USA, Britain, Spain, France, Italy, and Germany. Production years are generally not mentioned. Instead, the cards focus on specifications such as weight, horsepower, 0 to 60 mph times, and top speed. Once again, we see a parallel release from Quaker Oats cereal, much like the 1955-56 Quaker Oats hockey set that mirrored Parkhurst hockey that same year. This sports cars issue is identical in numbers and content, although the Quaker version is borderless and printed in a full bleed design. As before, Quaker offered bicycles as prizes, this time promoting a bike a day for 150 days, which naturally begs the question, why a bike a day? And why with this issue? This is where things drift slightly off the main Parkhurst track, but the context matters. In 1955, Quaker Oats offered bicycles as grand prizes for submitting complete hockey sets, yet the promotion was quietly undermined by 3 short-printed cards that dramatically limited the number of eligible winners. Compounding matters, Quaker Oats was headquartered in Peterborough, Ontario, and when the promotion concluded, roughly 75% of the winners came from within a 60-kilometer radius of Peterborough, despite the contest being marketed as a nationwide promotion. The bike-a-day approach may have been designed to soften public scrutiny after that earlier controversy, and it's not out of the question that Kennedy had a hand in pushing this structure into place. Next came a long-awaited return to hockey, after a 1-year hiatus, likely tied to an ongoing licensing battle with Topps. Parkhurst trimmed the release to a 50-card set, once again featuring only the 2 Canadian teams, the Montreal Canadiens and Toronto Maple Leafs. Each club is represented by 25 players, with both teams independently numbered 1 to 25, an oddly novel approach for the hockey card industry at the time. This set also featured one of the most team-representative wrappers of the era, incorporating the Toronto and Montreal colors. Uniquely, the wrapper doubles as a pseudo-checklist, printing the majority of the players' names directly on the pack. Beautiful as it is, the wrapper contains no fewer than 7 spelling errors among the 39 of the 50 listed players, 2 from Toronto and 5 from Montreal, with most mistakes stemming from typical Anglo conversions of French names. Next, we fly into the 1958 Canadian Bird Series, another modest 42-card release. This set was clearly aimed at a niche audience, perhaps the occasional bird enthusiast, but more likely younger collectors, particularly girls, who were beginning to be courted as participants in card collecting. The colors and backgrounds on many cards obscure and lack clear definition of the birds themselves. But once again, the artwork was produced with permission from Color Graphic Limited, the same source used for the 1957 Fido set. The wrapper also marks a notable branding shift, moving away from the Parkies nickname, abandoned in 1957 with Radisson, to the Zip name used on products going forward, likely another suggestion from George Kennedy's right-hand man, Leo Clavier. Parkhurst's next venture into TV-related card sets was 1958 Zorro, which was airing at the time the cards were distributed. The imagery was drawn from the first 13 episodes. The set consisted of 50 cards, and, given the popularity of the subject, it was likely a strong seller, helped by licensed approval from Walt Disney Productions, as noted on the card backs. The problem was competition. Topps secured its own license for the American market, and simultaneously supplied the O-Pee-Chee Canadian market with a much larger 88-card Zorro set, putting it in direct competition with Parkhurst, as shown by the 36-count stamp on the Topps box and O-Pee-Chee licensing on the wrapper. As previously discussed in Part 3, assuming they were released about the same time, One can only imagine how many kids ended up with partial or mixed sets, especially since many of the images are quite similar, but have different text on the back. No wrapper or box has been confirmed for this issue, which is not unusual, as many Parkhurst releases lack surviving display material, or at best are known by a single wrapper. It's also possible that vending machines played a role in this absence, if production was split between counter sales and vending distribution, leaving little in the way of traditional advertising material. Vending may have been a significant and perhaps even primary method of distribution, though exclusivity remains unproven. Personally, I acquired many years ago a large lot consisting of 8 different cards, with multiples of each from this issue, all in pristine condition, an acquisition pattern that is at least consistent with vending distribution. Zorro was clearly a very popular issue beyond North America, as it also received its own dedicated set in Argentina, completely different in design and content, including die-cut inserts. In addition, Sun Pictures also produced a Zorro issue, featuring self-developing images created from negatives, further underscoring the character's widespread appeal across multiple markets and formats. We now soar into the 1958 Missiles and Satellites, a 50-card set, with Topps having issued an 88-card Space set in 1957, and again, we clearly see the 36-count stamp on their display box. And it's hardly surprising to see the same theme appear at roughly the same time. The set is rooted in space theory, futuristic technology concepts, along with actual missiles. Yet another release, by permission of Color Graphic Limited, but only partially. Anything featuring real photographic imagery of missiles appears to fall under that licensing, while over half the set consists of fantasy-based illustrations, with the remainder focused on conceptual space subjects rendered in very colorful, artful drawings. No surprises here that few wrappers or packs have surfaced, and, to date, no display box. And what a box that would be to see. Surely one day we'll be blessed with that long-awaited resolution. In the meantime, this is what conceptually is in my mind's eye. Back on the ice, the 1958-59 hockey set arrived as another 50-card issue, and marked the first time the zip name adorned a hockey wrapper, which once housed 4 cards. The set features only players from the Toronto Maple Leafs and Montreal Canadiens, along with both team coaches, and includes 8 on-ice action cards. A small but important find, a handful of unopened wax packs, surfaced in the 1990s, coming through the doors of the Toronto Sports Card Expo. These are the kinds of moments that become hobby lore. The story making the rounds claims the packs arrived in a big beat-up display box, so rough it was allegedly thrown out. Ah yes, if it weren't for a little hobby embellishment now and then, collecting might be far less entertaining. Around 1959, Kennedy's relocated the Parkhurst Company to 111 Barber Green Road in Don Mills, a small suburb essentially attached to Toronto's northeast edge. A factory photograph we could only wish were true. Here is one of my personal favorite zip issues, the 1959 puzzle card set. A 60-card, multi-subject release built around a connect-the-dots puzzle concept. The set leans heavily on historical content, featuring people, events, and themes drawn from the past rather than contemporary pop subjects. The second-to-last card, number 59, titled as Hockey, features a brief history of the game on the reverse. When completed, the front image reveals a hockey player bearing a strong resemblance to Maurice Richard. A contest invited collectors to submit a fully completed set for a chance to win a CCM bicycle, with 500 additional prizes awarded, including regulation sports equipment. Bicycles clearly tied in well with Parkhurst promotions at the time. One can't help but think that if this were done today, the giveaways would likely be an electric scooter instead. Another issue gaining popularity around this time was iron-on transfers, and in 1959, Parkhurst entered the space under the release name of Western Brands. This is likely one of the toughest issues to locate, often even to identify, as the wrapper remains the only confirmed clue to its naming. The transfers are elongated, 3-fold pieces, featuring cowboy and native Indian imagery, along with related logos and paraphernalia, all arranged in long vertical format, almost reminiscent of a totem pole. The total number of transfers issued is anyone's guess, though it's clear many of the same designs were printed in multiple color variations. Beyond that, sorry. That's literally all we've got. We arrive now at the 1959 Old Time Cars issue, a 64-card release that looks back to the turn of the century and beyond, showcasing some of the most antiquated automobiles ever produced. Each card is set against a different pastel-colored background, a simple but effective design choice that helps the vehicles pop right off the card. This set features some terrific old roadsters, some plain, some flashy, and even an electric entry. The 1914 Rouch and Lang is capable of running up to 75 miles on a single charge. Yes, read that again. 1914. Plenty of modern car makers might want to take a seat. Another standout is the 1921 Duesenberg, a name so synonymous with excellence that it gave rise to the phrase, "Isn't that a doozy?" Still used to describe something remarkable, impressive, or downright exceptional. For the third year running, Parkhurst published another set of 50 cards for the 1959-60 season. To create space for a new contest offer, the biographical and statistical data on the back of the cards were reduced. Parkhurst, always offering more, rolled out a clever marketing hook with the Zip Hockey Gum Contest, rewarding participants with prizes and, not coincidentally, encouraging the purchase of more cards. As a bilingual set, contest instructions were split across specific card backs. English text appears on player cards numbers 1, 15, 30, 36, and 50, while the French instructions are found on numbers 22, 25, 46, and 47, using only in-action, coach, and executive cards. By awarding 3 participants the opportunity to win a 2-person trip to a Stanley Cup playoff game and dinner at a renowned restaurant, one of the most stunning wrappers of the era features Toronto and Montreal team captains George Kenty and Maurice Richard prominently displayed. Unfortunately, a counter-display box has yet to been found. Well, we finally reached 1960, considering all hockey cards were released in the first week of January. I said we would get there, and here we are. Now this is where the fun begins. Well, at least for me. I'm not going to dwell on this too long, but instead lay out how the wrapper designs evolve and start falling into clear blocks of matching styles. These patterns help date the non-sports issues, using the hockey releases as a reliable anchor for each new year. We loosely are aware of most of the release years to begin with, but this exercise helps lock certain sets into place. Is it perfect? No. Some issues likely straddle late-year releases or early rollovers into the next year. But it is progressive, and it brings order to what was once a bit of a mess. We'll start with 1953-54, as everything prior to that is solidly dated through known advertising and documentation. From there, things begin to shift. The first major change is the move from block-lettered parkees to the scripted parkees with the swoosh underscore. This style begins in 1953-54 hockey issue and runs through the 1955 Race Against Time issue. A subtle tweak to the Parkees script appears in 1955-56 hockey, with the swoosh underscore removed. That version carries through to 1957 Fido, after which the Parkees name disappears entirely. For several issues, the wrappers carry no nickname branding at all, until Zip debuts on the 1958 Canadian Birds release. Zip appears again, disappears for a few issues, then briefly returns in 1961 before vanishing altogether as Parkhurst nears the end of card production. Now let's reinforce this with production details. Beginning with 1954 Wrestling, the Made in Canada line appears in the upper left corner above the colored wrapper design. This placement remains consistent through to the 1957-58 hockey wrapper, after which it shifts to the bottom center, outside the colored area. The 1959 Zip puzzle cards, Made in Canada, moves again, this time to the top center, and stays there through 1961-62 hockey. At this point, the timeline starts tightening considerably. Pricing and card counts tell another story. From 1954-55 Wrestling, wrappers list 4 cards for 5 cents, a format that continues through 1955-56 hockey, though the wrestling wrapper for that year remains unconfirmed. The next issue, 1955 Frontier Days, drops the card count but keeps the 5-cent price. That pricing remains through 1957 Sports Cars, after which pricing disappears entirely, until it returns in 1960, remaining in place through the final 1963-64 hockey issue. As if that weren't enough, 3 rappers, and only 3, share the phrase, by Parkey's 1-cent gum, the best. These rappers were 1956, Crash Dive, 1957, Fido, and the 1957 Adventure of Radisson. This slogan appears nowhere else, before or after, locking those 3 issues tightly together in time. There's also a structural design tell. Early wax wrappers consistently feature matching color lines running down both outer edges. This remains true until 1959, old-time cars, when Parkhurst switches to a 4-corner blocked color design, a format that persists through the end of trading card production in 1963-64. From 1954 onward, wrappers also include Parkhurst Products Limited, Toronto, Canada, printed within the main colored advertising area at the bottom. This remains consistent until the 1957 sports cars. Starting with 1958-59 hockey, that text moves just slightly to the outer white portion of the wrapper. The following issue, 1958 Canadian Birds, retains Parkhurst Products Limited with Toronto, Canada, placed beneath. Then things get truly granular. Toronto, Canada begins aligning with the UR in the word of Parkhurst, a positioning that holds through 1958-59 hockey and then moves to the K in Parkhurst through till the end. The takeaway. These groupings are not random. Every design element, branding, placement, pricing, card counts, layout, runs in consistent blocks that can only fit together one way. While this exercise may lose a few watchers along the way, it locks issues into their most plausible timelines and brings order to what was once guesswork. Dates are most crucial when it comes to sports and rookie cards. Right, Victor? Whereas non-sports, maybe not so much, although it's imperfect, yes, but historically meaningful to the hobby. And with that, this is the end of Part 4. Check out Part 5 soon on my YouTube page. We have lots of interesting twists and turns to show you as Parkhurst changes their name and goes rogue with other releases, extending their life as a card producer beyond 1964 up into the 1970s. There will be a Part 6, and definitely being the final chapter. It wasn't always clear where this road was heading, but now we're close enough to see the finish line. This video is sponsored by the Needham.com website and app, not financially, but through the highly detailed information for vintage hockey and CFL football. The full list and details of the Parkhurst non-sports are also scheduled to be added to the Needham website and app in the very near future, so stay tuned.